The other day, there was this headline on our national state broadcaster. I don't look at television news, but somebody forwarded me on the article on their website, and I just thought I'd read it out for you because this is where we've arrived to in Catholic Ireland, and I thought that the whole incident was very telling of how far we've lost the faith in Ireland, or how little we understand about the faith in Ireland. Anyway, let me just read this out to you. So this was the headlines on our national state broadcaster. Fifth year students find relic of saint in Dublin school. Surprise discovery of a vial of blood of Saint Hilary was found by a group of students. And I'm just going to read it out here. A relic of a saint who is believed to date from the 2nd or 3rd century has been found in a secondary school in North Dublin. The surprise discovery of a vial of blood of Saint Hilary was found by a group of students as they helped with preparations for the graduation ceremony last week. The 5th year students in St. Vincent Secondary School in Glasnevin were moving a school's altar from an upstairs room to the hall, when a change to the usual access route meant they had to tilt the structure upwards to manoeuvre it to its destination. Colin Sheridan, Conor Brogan Carr, Munshar Omar, Jonathan Tate and Ethan Byrne were carrying the altar down the stairs with the school caretaker Dermot Swords when Ethan noticed it had a false bottom which was moving. One of the lads noticed something inside of it, and we just thought it was wood. But it was kind of darker, and then it fell through. The students brought the large parcel wrapped in paper, which had a handwritten label in Latin on the top, along with the date 1787, to the principal's office. A quick translation of the text suggested that the visibly old and well-sealed package contained the remains of a saint. Colin said the discovery had been the talk of the school. The school has been buzzing the past couple of days. Everybody's been really excited to find out what it is, he said. And here you have the box, which clearly says it contains a relic. Principal Moira Quinlan, a former history teacher, immediately contacted the National Museum and staff at Glasnevin Cemetery, which is across the road from the school, for advice. History teacher who hasn't a clue what altars contain. Not much. Dig a little deeper into our history. Anyway, she also got in touch with the archives of the Edmund Rice Trust, which was the former Christian Brothers School is part of. All indications were that the relic was legitimate, and the school called on the services of Catholic Church's expert in the area, Father William Purcell. Father Purcell, who is based in Kilkenny and the owner of more than 2,000 relics, admits that his friends affectionately call him the Bone Collector or Indiana Jones. On arrival at the school, he took out a toolkit and magnifying glasses before advising the principal to carefully cut off the paper clipping, ensuring to preserve what was written on top. Again, this box was always clearly labelled to contain a relic, right? Wasn't like it wasn't labelled. Its removal revealed a wooden box and the letters J and a number of lines of text suggesting that the container originated in Nantes, France. It was firmly nailed shut, so Father Purcell prized open the lid as the first piece came away and took a sharp intake of breath as staff and students watched. Wow, I'm really excited about this because I can really see the wax seal and the authenticity of the relic in the wax seal, he said. When the lid was fully removed, it revealed an ornate green and red box with a number of red wax seals, and in the window of a box sat another envelope, this time with English written on it. Father Purcell opened the envelope and unfurled a printed certificate with an embossed stamp on the bottom left corner, and read the words: Reverend John Augustine Grace, Authentication of Body of Saint Hilary Saint, 1878, from Rome. After reading its contents for a moment, he looked at the group with a smile. This is a guarantee proof with wax seals that this is a first-class genuine relic of Saint Hilary. Close examination revealed a vial of blood was visible through the window of the waxed sealed box. Now we have a choice, he declared, telling the group they could either open the box or leave it sealed. The principal decided to leave it closed, exactly, don't touch it, saying she did not believe they needed to further disturb the object. Father Purcell said the discovery of a relic in the school was unusual, and that while all altars are said to contain a relic, many do not come with documentary evidence to back up such veracity. I question that. Consultation with the Edmund Rice Trust suggests that the altar came to St. Vincent's in Glasnevin from O'Connell's School in the city centre more than 30 years ago, but nobody appeared to be aware that it contained a relic. Little is known about Saint Hilary, but Father Purcell believes that the relics date to the 2nd or 3rd century, and that the vial of blood would have been removed from Roman catacombs and sent to Dublin at the request of Christian brothers in the 1700s. The document in the archive suggests they sought to verify the relic in the early 1900s. There is very little known about him, Father Purcell said. All we know is that he is a pre-congregation saint. Pre-congregation saint means that he was declared a saint before the congregation of the saints was established. So the people acclaimed him, which was very beautiful, because it was the people who saw in the life of this person and saw in his death that he was a man who gave his life to Christ, and in doing so they acclaimed him as a martyr and a saint. Miss Quinn said she did not need any more evidence that the relic was legitimate, and said that the school's journey of discovery has now only just begun. It's been incredibly exciting over the last few days, she said. It feels like we've been given a puzzle and we've spent the last few days just trying to figure it out. I have to be honest, because it was 6th year graduation, there was a part of me that thought, is this a prank? There's still more to find out, Why was that specific martyr picked for the particular school? So there's definitely more to uncover. The school has notified the Diocese of Dublin about the find, and its next step is to notify the Vatican. Yes, because the Vatican needs to know about relics from every single altar around the world. This is common knowledge. However, the tradition dictates that the relic was found on their premises. It remains their property. Miss Quinn said their focus now is to find a safe and suitable location for the relic to be preserved and viewed for future generations. Leave it under the altar. Leave it where it was. That's where it should have been placed. I would say if Irish students, if the Catholic schools brought their students to Rome, they would be astounded by the number of relics found under altars around Rome. Some altars actually display the whole body of the saint under them. For example, you go and you look at St. Pius X, you will see he has an altar in the Vatican, or John Paul II, or you go down to the catacombs. And if you were to go around Ireland and, for example, go into a cathedral or a major church, and you were to lift up the altar cloth, you would see kind of a stone slab, and under that slab would be a relic. All practically altars would have a relic. This is a common practice in Catholic tradition. And the fact that this school found a relic and didn't know what to do with it, and didn't know why it was there when they were moving an altar, goes to show how little we know about the Catholic faith. The normal thing, once it was discovered, okay, this is a relic, the normal practice that they would do is put it back where it was, documented maybe, and that's it. There was no need for national headlines. There was no need to call in a priest. There's no need to contact the cemetery or the museum or the Vatican or any like this. There are literally millions, well, thousands, tens of thousands of relics in altars around the world. This is common practice. But when I was looking at this headline, I was saying, well, this goes to show how little we know about the faith in institutions that are supposed to be Catholic. This is supposed to be a Catholic school, or was a Catholic school, and yet we haven't a clue what relics are, where they're supposed to be, what was their purpose. This is why it's a surprise to the school. It's a surprise to the students. The teachers are surprised. It's like you're discovering the obvious, and yet the obvious hasn't been taught to Catholic students. I was at a Leaving Cert Mass. Don't want to say where. Don't want to get into specifics about it. But as I said, when I saw what was going on at the Leaving Cert Mass, neither the priest understands his faith, neither does the congregation understand their faith. They haven't a clue what's happening at this sacred mystery. They're receiving the Eucharist and carrying it around, not knowing to consume it, what to do with it. Priest can't say the consecration as translated. We have arrived to the situation in Ireland really where we're doing a disservice to the faith by not understanding it ourselves, but also not even engaging the next generation in the faith. Not even telling them about the basic traditions and practices of our Catholic faith, that an altar would have a relic. In fact, outside of Ireland, many altars have many relics, not just displayed in the altar, but displayed around the altar or on the altar. I mean, it's interesting that the students maybe educated themselves, on the fact that it's red, but it's also sad in a way. We have dumbed down Catholicism over the last 50 years in Ireland, that it has become completely irrelevant and unintelligible to the next generation. They don't know. We've discovered a relic in an altar. What do we do? We have no idea. It's a box. And yet, this is, at one stage, 100 years ago, if they had discovered that, well, the prince would say, oh, that's the relic for the altar. Or the priest, well, that's the relic for the altar. Nobody would have batted an eyelid or have raised concerns but do people understand this is where we've arrived to in Catholic Ireland? And I think it's extremely sad. We have destroyed faith in the Eucharist for the next generation. On my last video, they said, "Oh, Robert, you're being very negative." No, I'm kind of reflecting on the reality of what we've done. We have destroyed the faith in Ireland. And priests and bishops must say, well, look, with the child sex abuse, we're kind of hand-tied here. We're not in a position to preach the faith or talk to people about the faith or teach them. Yeah, well, sure, look, do the sins of others dictate how you have to live your life? There is something beautiful about the faith, about teaching the Christian faith. But as I said in my video about the Eucharist, our Eucharistic catechesis ends at the age of 7 in Ireland. There is no more Eucharistic catechesis. Some people said, well, there's a lot of good work being done by Children of the Eucharist and Antoinette Moynihan. Absolutely, there is. But many schools refuse to let her in. They will stop her entry into the school. And so those that are prepared to catechize are not even welcomed in some schools. And it's truly sad, but that's the reality. We have dumbed down the faith so much, and it's an own goal. It's very, very sad. But look, I suppose let's put this into context. If any other Catholic schools or Catholic students find a box which under an altar or in an altar or under a slab on an altar, and they say, oh, we don't know what it is, it's called a relic, it's supposed to be there, push it back, don't disturb it, and leave it alone. Maybe take some photos and put the photos up beside the altar, say, well, this altar contains the relic of such and such a saint. And maybe it's time for us Catholics to inform ourselves on our own traditions and our own faith. So that in second, I think we're doing a great disservice to the next generation, having dumbed down the faith so much that they don't know who they're interacting with or who they're receiving. And then bishops will go on about, we need vocations, there's no vocations to the priesthood, we don't have any vocations in Ireland, blah, 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 this ad nauseum moaning about vocations that we have in Ireland. You don't have vocations because you don't introduce the next generation to a personal relationship with Christ, to how they're supposed to interact with this mystery. We have dumbed down the holy sacrifice of the Mass that it becomes a boring, meaningless service, worse than something you would find in a Protestant church. That's how we have dumbed it down. When the prince in Kiev was looking for which religion they were going to have, was it going to be Islam or Christianity, and they sent emissaries to Constantinople. They didn't understand what was happening, but they were truly moved by the divine liturgy that they found there. So much so that that's what converted them. And many people go to a divine liturgy, a sacred liturgy, and are truly moved and remember what they've seen. They may not understand every element of it, but they see something serious, beautiful. And yet our Catholic worship in Ireland has become so, what is it? It's a performance. I'm here, I have a stage, and I perform to you every Sunday. In our local Mass, we see a lot of parishioners wonder about a priest who says the homily at the start of the Mass, and so, what's this? Why is he doing this? What's going on? Because it's a performance. This priest has to do it this way, and the other priest has to do it this way, and it's all about individuality and innovation. And then we moan, we've no vocations. You've no vocations because you don't introduce souls into the mysteries of our faith. Simple as. Own goal. And bishops and priests and clergy and religious who have time, effort, money, everything, structures behind it, spend little of them actually focused on what they should be doing, which is educating the next generation on the basics of our faith. Altars have relics. The Eucharist is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ, and to receive it you prepare yourself. But we don't do neither one thing or the other thing, and then the graces just go nowhere because we haven't formed them to understand the basics of our faith. I hope over the next decades we do return to into that mystery of the liturgy. But we just have to live through this desert of dry, banal, tasteless masses that are engaging few people, and then you will do a synodal survey and say people are bored at Mass. 50 years of liturgical innovation and people are bored at Mass. This is what the synodal document says. Well, of course you're going to be bored at Mass because you don't know the purpose of this rite. No man is going to give his life to an idea of Christ that we've created in the church. This idea of Christ that we have to introduce souls into that crucified Christ that gave his life for us. The real living present Christ that is alive in the church today. If we drew back the veil, people would be surprised who is present there. Look, let's see what happens. But again, I was just baffled. Well, not baffled, but I was saying, look, I'm not surprised. We've just lost the faith in Ireland. Let's be clear. And generations in the future are finding things. And we said, wow, we've discovered something. It's made national headlines. Guess what? There are hundreds and hundreds of relics in altars all around Ireland. Don't touch them. Leave them there. God bless you. Take care. Bye bye.